An attempt to pull two redevelopment plans for the former Qualcomm Stadium from November's ballot fails, and the Taxpayers Association weighs in on which plan would be a better deal for San Diego.
There's a reason I just got married 2 years ago. I've been a very good Marine for 20 years, and my focus has always been on my career, and I don't really know how to do something at half speed.
The U.S. military is becoming increasingly accommodating to the needs of dual-serving families, and they say it's a matter of national security.
We love telling her stories, and it comes very easily, you know. The characters, they really live in our heads, and we can hear them speaking, and when I put pencil to paper, it's almost like it moves by itself.
Amazing characters running around inside his head, and the stories leaping onto the page of his new graphic series. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. A San Diego County Taxpayers Association report finds the Soccer City project could generate more tax revenue for the city than the Sdsu West plan. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson has the story.
The Taxpayers Association has spent months researching the competing plans to redevelop the Mission Valley Stadium site. Both groups want to build a sports stadium, housing, commercial space, and a river park. Soccer City's plan is to lure an MLS team here. Sdsu West wants to build an auxiliary campus. The association's Haney Hong says Soccer City could generate nearly twice the tax revenue.
When you compare the two, that Soccer City will result in a more positive fiscal impact for the city. But they both have a positive fiscal impact. And I think that's important to know. And one of the things that we do in the report is specify what are the variables that would change whether one is more positive or less positive than the other.
Hong says both projects do carry significant risk. If Soccer City fails to get an MLS team, the land could sit vacant for years. And the Sdsu West plan could see long delays as it follows the California Environmental Quality Act. Meanwhile, two San Diego judges have turned back the city attorney's attempt to remove both measures from the ballot. The judge deciding the Sdsu West case this week finalized her ruling, keeping the measure on the ballot. And the judge reviewing the Soccer City measure issued a tentative decision, hinting the Soccer City measure should also stay on the November ballot. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
KPBS is a service of San Diego State University. This weekend, a powerful display of unity and support in Hillcrest. It's all part of San Diego's annual Pride Parade. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman says organizers are expecting more than 200,000 people to attend.
Preparations are underway for San Diego's 2018 Pride Parade. On Saturday, this area will be filled with thousands of people showing their support for the LGBTQ community.
San Diego is a proud city, proud of the diversity that can be found throughout our many vibrant neighborhoods, proud of the compassion that we have for one another, and proud of the fact that we cherish what all San Diegans uniquely bring to the table.
Among the groups participating in this year's march are teachers and staff from San Diego Unified School District.
You'll find a huge school bus out front, and we'll have poster board and markers and probably glitter, because we love glitter, and we'll be decorating signs, and so schools can represent, or they can make a sign of empowerment, or we're here, we're queer, we're awesome.
Some faculty members will walk in the parade alongside students, sending an important message.
For students specifically to see other teachers, principals, administrators, their mentors really, marching alongside them, I think is a really powerful act of allyship.
Happy Pride, everybody.
The Pride Parade kicks off this Saturday at 11 a.m. near University Avenue and Normal Street. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
A new report is touting the benefits of free trade between the San Diego region and Baja California. KPBS reporter Taryn Mento says this comes as the Trump administration is renegotiating the North American Free Trade Agreement.
The new report says San Diego and Imperial counties don't just trade with Baja California. Companies in both countries manufacture products together, a collaboration that's worth about $6 billion a year.
We're making those things together and adding value at each stop.
World Trade Center San Diego Executive Director Nikia Clark says this distinguishes the importance of free trade in our region from that other trade partner you've heard a lot about.
If you look at the relationship between the U.S. and China, that is buying and selling things back and forth to each other. Here in North America, we co-produce things together.
There has never been a more critical time for border cities to champion international trade.
San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer has often touted the regional benefits of NAFTA, running counter to President Trump's stance that it's unfair to the U.S.
NAFTA, one of the worst deals ever made by this country.
Renegotiation talks began last year, but Trump has said he may not consider a new deal until after midterm elections. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
President Trump's European trip is testing bonds with some of the closest allies to the United States. The president claimed he had secured significant new concessions from NATO member nations on military spending. Those allies are challenging his claims. Associated Press reporter Tracy Brown also looks ahead to the final leg of his trip and whether Trump will rebuke or embrace Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Leading up to his week-long European trip, President Donald Trump left no doubt about what was on his mind heading into the four-nation tour. Trump tweeting that NATO member countries were still not paying their fair share of the alliance's costs. That echoing earlier complaints about NATO.
They want to protect against Russia, yet they pay billions of dollars to Russia, and we're the schmucks that are paying for the whole thing.
Trump departs amid simmering disputes over trade and military spending with fellow Western democracies.
I mean, there have been lots of rocky periods in transatlantic relations before, but nothing maybe quite so vigorous.
Experts fear there could be a repeat of the dynamics from Trump's last trip abroad, when he admonished allies at a G7 summit before showering praise on North Korea's Kim Jong-un.
We'll be seeing a replay of that, where he goes to NATO, has a dust-up with allies, and then goes to Helsinki and meets with Putin and has a love fest as he did with Kim Jong-un.
There's intense speculation about whether Trump will rebuke or embrace Vladimir Putin when he meets the Russian leader in Helsinki at the finale of the trip. Trump has already met with Putin twice as president, including on the sidelines of a summit in Germany. But plans for a full-fledged summit had been delayed amid probes into whether Trump campaign aides coordinated with Russia to help him win the election. Putin's wish list includes an end to U.S. military exercises in Europe and the scaling back of U.S. forces there. It also offers Putin a chance to try and persuade Trump to lift some of the sanctions imposed on Russia over its 2014 annexation of Crimea and its alleged meddling in the 2016 U.S. presidential election.
Putin's goal for some years now, just as it was for the Soviet Union, has been to divide the West. He wants to undermine the relationship between the United States and Europe. He wants to undermine NATO. He wants to undermine the European Union. So anything he can get from Trump, where Trump just says the normal things he says, is a win for Putin.
Trump has repeatedly cast doubt on conclusions by the U.S. intelligence agencies that Russia tried to help him win, noting that Putin had strongly denied being behind the interference. U.S. officials said the two sides this time would be discussing Russian election meddling, Russia's incursion in the Ukraine, and involvement in Syria. Tracy Brown, Associated Press.
High-caliber horse rescue in Valley Center is under scrutiny again for its fundraising practices. As iNewsSource reporter Brad Racino tells us, this time, criticism is centered around the use of Facebook photos.
This week, High Caliber's online critics noticed something wrong with one of the photos the nonprofit used to solicit funds on Facebook. It showed an emaciated horse along with a call to donate that read, "Please help in any way you can, so we are prepared when we get the next call for an emaciated horse that needs our help. Until ours are fed, we can't help others." Here's the thing. A Google search for the word skinny horse turns up the same photo. It was taken 6 years ago during an animal abuse case involving the South Florida Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. High Caliber has since deleted the post, but it had already raised more than $1,800 for the organization. Another Facebook post sent to iNewsSource Thursday showed a High Caliber volunteer acknowledging in a Facebook comment that a horse named Linus, rescued last week, had died. The volunteer's comment has since been deleted, though fundraisers for the horse continue and have so far earned High Caliber more than $2,100 in Facebook donations. The nonprofit is the subject of multiple local and state investigations. Last month, High Caliber planned to close, but that hasn't happened. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource reporter Brad Racino.
And iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. Military couples are increasingly common. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh takes a look at how the Pentagon is trying to keep them in the fold.
All this is trash.
Jennifer Gabbard is making room in the cabinets before the rest of her things arrive. She just drove across country to California from her last duty station in Boston.
Oh my God, there's suction cups on this thing.
A Navy nurse and Chief Petty Officer, Gabbard is now retiring from the military and finally reuniting with her husband John at the home they own in La Mesa. He also spent his life in the Navy, and Jennifer says that helps.
You don't have to explain things. Things are just easier, I think. People think it's harder, but it really isn't. You understand each other, I think, a lot more.
Jennifer and her husband are among the 84,000 service members who are married to another member of the military. It's a group roughly the size of everyone on the payroll in the U.S. Coast Guard. It's a group large enough that the military is beginning to focus more on their needs. Janet Wolfenberger is a retired 4-star Air Force general. She chairs a commission on women for the Pentagon, which has looked at dual military couples.
There are things that the military can do. It really is about national security to be able to attract and retain high-caliber individuals in this country who want to serve.
The Pentagon knows when a couple can't live together for long periods, they start talking about whether it's time for one of them to get out. Overwhelmingly, it's the women who end up leaving. Now that she's pregnant, Marine Major Christina Upton is thinking about that choice.
There's a reason I just got married 2 years ago. I've been a very good Marine for 20 years, and my focus has always been on my career. And I don't really know how to do something at half speed.
She's leaning toward retiring, while her husband, Major Chris Upton, says he's seen other military couples raise children.
Marines that are married to other Marines that do it, and they do it very well, and they do it very successfully. And I know that we could do it as well, so if she wanted to stay in, I would definitely support her.
It's those future top women leaders who are most at risk. 45% of married women in the military are married to someone else in the service. 57% of married women in the Marine Corps are married to someone in the Corps. But it's also about finding ways to grow the overall force. Pentagon data shows up-and-coming millennials are overall less willing to sacrifice their own family life to serve.
That's definitely something that we've discussed. Actually in great detail is we're going to try and just play it by ear. We want to do a full 20, but if for some reason things just don't work out, we have kids and one of us is going to get stationed completely across the country, we would probably call it quits.
Chief Petty Officer 2nd Class Cody Lipman and Seaman Lauren Mano are just starting their careers in the Coast Guard.
It's really sad where, like, my friends, if they become mothers and they feel really limited and they actually have to quit the service. But I'm going to try to go as far as I can.
Each couple says their service makes an effort to keep them together. In 2016, a Navy policy declared keeping couples together should be the norm. The needs of the Navy come first, but the rule is designed to encourage commanders to keep couples within at least 90 miles of one another. Angelina Gabriel is a Chief Petty Officer in the Navy with 3 young boys in San Diego. Today she's home earlier than her husband, also a chief.
His schedule is anywhere between, no baby, his schedule is anywhere between 4 or 5 in the morning to 8 o'clock at night.
They've deployed separately and once at the same time.
A lot of times one of us is not here. And that's what's stressful. When my husband's not here, our children act a different way. I'm more lenient because I want to coddle the boys. I want to make sure they're okay because they're feeling the fact that their dad is not here.
The Pentagon's Commission on Women recommends that the Department of Defense set a universal policy, especially for the growing number of people married to someone else in another branch of the military. Given the numbers, these couples say the policy the military could never survive is preventing marriage among service members. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
You think of edgy hairstyles. Ponytails probably don't come to mind, but Navy policy has long forbidden them for female sailors in uniform. Now that's changed, and some female sailors say it shows the Navy is being more inclusive.
We have more women in the service, and not just with ponytails, but I think the Navy as a whole has been really striving to incorporate all different kinds of hair types and all different types of sailors, and I think this is just one strong signal that they're overall trying to listen to its people in the Navy and include everyone in its workforce.
A female sailor announced the new policy during a Facebook Live event. Lock hairstyles and whiter buns are also now allowed, something many black women in the service have long been asking for. Ready for takeoff, National City launched a new program designed to give first responders a bird's eye view. Officers showed off their fleet of drones this afternoon. They say the unmanned aerial vehicle quadcopter program offers real-time information during critical incidents.
It's not a cheap program, but the way we look at it is simple. These quadcopters, they will never replace aerial vehicles such as helicopters. They're still a necessary part of law enforcement. However, there are times where the speed and the quickness and action of the quadcopters would suit the situation far more effectively, thereby making it more cost-effective.
5 law enforcement officers and 1 firefighter are currently licensed to operate the drones for the program. California appears to be ahead of schedule on its ambitious climate goals. The State Air Resources Board announced yesterday that California greenhouse gas emissions fell below 1990 levels in 2016. This is 4 years earlier than the target of 2020. Lawmakers set a new goal in 2016 to cut emissions another 40% lower by the end of the next decade.
Reaching this milestone ahead of schedule really was about increasing our use of renewable energy, specifically solar, and decreasing our use of dirty natural gas. And what this really means is that renewable energy is getting more affordable and reliable.
Governor Brown recently approved another environmental goal to cut state emissions 40% below 1990 levels by the year 2030. A California Assembly bill is getting some support from Hollywood. Kim Kardashian West took to Twitter this week to lobby Governor Brown to sign a bill that would boost protections for female inmates in the state. If passed, the bill would prohibit male correctional officers from conducting pat-down searches of women. West has had some recent success in this arena. Last month, she convinced President Trump to commute the life sentence of a woman convicted of drug offenses.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, President Trump says NATO allies will increase defense spending, but details remain sparse. Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And there you have it, sun and surf at La Jolla Shores today. It's a popular spot for people taking a break from work, and the warming trend continues this weekend. Regina Miller has more in tonight's forecast.
Well, as we take a look across the southwest, we're dealing with that monsoonal moisture that is bringing showers and thunderstorms, and those are around the high spots and the deserts as well. So for tonight, though, for the game at Petco Park, Dodgers versus Padres doesn't make its way all the way to the coast, so 75 degrees under a partly sunny sky. We do have a coastal flood advisory in effect, and that's for times of high tide, and that's in effect until Saturday at 11 p.m. But notice that we've got the showers and thunderstorms popping up here around Borrego Springs. Most places less than 1/10 of an inch of rain, but if you get caught under one of these thunderstorms, you could have a downpour and some flash flooding, so that's something to keep an eye on in those locations. Tonight, low clouds and fog at the coast, 71 degrees. In Oceanside, we'll be at 66 degrees with those low clouds developing. Borrego Springs early, maybe a shower thunderstorm in the area, and then we just have the clouds around. Now, looking ahead to tomorrow, most of the activities a little bit farther to the east, and we're looking at some sunshine for Borrego Springs, 106. Oceanside's at 81 degrees with plenty of sunshine in the forecast. So As we look at the coast's weather, we are going to have the fog, then sun for Friday and Saturday. We're in the low 80s. Fog gives way to some sunshine on Sunday, and we fall back into the upper 70s. In the inland locations, fog gives way to some sunshine on Friday at 90 degrees, then mostly sunny and warm on Saturday, partly sunny for your Sunday at 87. Mountain areas, mostly sunny for Friday and Saturday, but there could be a thunderstorm around Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. We've got that monsoonal moisture, and that could bring some of those thunderstorms to the mountain areas. In the desert locations, mostly sunny Friday and Saturday. Temperature gets up to 107 on Saturday. On Sunday, we're partly sunny, and we're at 105. I'm Regina Miller, KPBS News.
A promotion that proved too good to be true today at Build-A-Bear workshops, where parents and kids waited in long lines for a Pay Your Age Day. During the event, customers could buy a bear and pay only according to their respective age. But the promotion, which was also available in Canada and the UK, was so popular, the chain couldn't handle the crowds and felt forced to turn shoppers away in some stores and limit the lines in others. The company then took to social media to explain it couldn't have predicted the reaction, adding the closures were due to safety concerns created by the crowds. The company also said it would reach out to disappointed customers soon. Comic-Con is just around the corner. Before the cosplayers and the Comic-Con fans head over to downtown San Diego, WOSU Public Media introduces us to Rafael Rosado. The illustrator from Columbus has worked on popular shows from Scooby-Doo to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Storyboard artist's job is to take the story that's in the script and basically tell it visually, basically. What I do is sort of the tip of the spear as far as like the production process goes. And then once we storyboard it, that will eventually go to an animator. So in essence, they're using what I've drawn as a roadmap.
We did vote in the next election. It was a joy. But the thing about it is, I didn't feel that it should have been this hard. I knew it shouldn't have been this hard.
I've been doing a lot of work for Warner Brothers Animation. So right now I'm working on Mike Tyson Mysteries, which is an Adult Swim show, and it's hilarious. It's just insane.
Dad! I'm sorry. It's just when I hear a bell, it's instinctive. I go for the knockout every time.
Let's see, I was working on Curious George, and that's really one of my favorite shows to work on. The Chronicles of Claudette, which is what we call the series as a whole, was co-created by myself and Jorge Aguirre, who's also he's from Columbus. He's actually born and raised in Upper Arlington. So Claudette lives in a medieval town in France where magic and magical creatures are, a common thing. But she has this idea that she wants to be just like her dad and become this great warrior. So she convinces her little brother, Gaston, who his desire is actually to become the world's greatest pastry chef. And then she convinces her best friend, Marie, who's sort of a princess in training, and then their little dog, Valiant, this little pug. So together they go off on this adventure. And we basically keep the team together over the 3 books. We love telling her stories, and it comes very easily, the characters, they really live in our heads, and we can hear them speaking, and when I put pencil to paper, it's almost like it moves by itself. Graphic novels are a way for beginning readers to, basically get comfortable with the act of reading and just building confidence into reading. And I've heard this from many teachers and librarians and parents that our books in particular have helped a lot of reluctant readers. I try to make the kids realize that this is something they can do themselves. I think there's been a huge cultural shift in the last maybe 20 years, I would say, but even more so in the last 10 years, in the way that people treat graphic novels and the amount of respect that they get. And they're seen more as a legitimate art form and a legitimate way of telling stories, all kinds of stories. But honestly, this was something I wanted to do since I was a kid. I mean, I've been drawing since I could hold a pencil. I feel very lucky to be able to draw for a living. Yeah, I really am. I'm living the dream.
And that story came to us from WOSU Public Media in Columbus, Ohio. And here is a look at what we are working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, a sweet treat that promises to be lower in sugar, in fat, and in carbs. Why fitness pros say a scoop of this dessert is not exactly guilt-free. And on Midday Edition, we have your weekend preview guide to San Diego Pride. That's all tomorrow on KPBS Radio. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Have a great evening.